Welcome back to the podcast. I'm so excited for today's topic. We are going to talk about signs and signs from the universe, how to start hearing them, how to start tuning into them and noticing them so that you can co-create magic in your life and in your business. And the reason this has been on my heart and mind is because I feel like I have been noticing so many signs this past year that I couldn't ignore. And I'm excited to dive in and share those with you. But I also want to talk about how you can start tuning into this and what signs are, how the universe speaks to us, and also like what kind of magic unfolds when you actually listen, when you actually follow those signs, right? Because business, well, life and business is a co-creative effort. And when we know that, that's when things get so much better. When we know that we are not this lonely one person who has to figure it all out on our own and grind to make things happen, and it all has to be so hard, right? I'm not saying that there's not going to be obstacles, but what I'm saying is if you can let go of the idea that you have to do it all alone and open up to the idea that you can, in fact, co-create with higher power, universe, God, spirits, angels, guides, the goodness and the magic of life. I do believe this is when we really truly expand and when we really start leaning into our soul's calling and things start falling into much more alignment in our lives. So let's talk about this communication because the universe does communicate with us. All of us get signs all the time. The problem is so many of us don't slow down enough to listen, or we don't look for them, right? We don't know how to look for them, or we don't trust them. So we don't follow them. And, then we get ourselves all out of alignment. I mean, have you ever had a time where you look back in hindsight and you were like, there were a lot of signs kind of leading me towards the opposite direction, but I wasn't listening in relationships or in business. And you're like, God, I should have trusted my intuitive instincts. I should have trusted my gut. There was a part of you that knew it wasn't right, but you did it anyways. So the beautiful thing is we can learn from those experiences. And when we don't trust the universe's signs, we can see how sometimes that gives us a whole nother lesson. And when we start to trust it, it becomes a really fun, the way I think of it is it's like a game. It's a creation, right? It's like an artist project. It's so much fun living your life and creating in your business and trying new things and going for new experiences and manifesting whatever it is that you want. So let's dive into it. I will share some personal stories first because my gosh, I've had so many signs this past year. So one of them that has continued to come up over and over and over is the number 26. Now, this has always been my number. Like, I don't know if you're like that, if you're like have a lucky number or a favorite number, but 26 has been my number. It's been my family number as well. It was my grandpa's favorite number. It's my mom's favorite number. My mom was born on the 26th. I was born on the 26th. And it's just, I don't know. I feel like during times where the universe is really speaking to me, I see that number a lot. And this year was no different. I cannot tell you how many times a day I see the number 26. And it started back in June when I put my house on the market. So, of course, this year, 2025, has been the year of me selling my condo, me selling my home in LA, and me and my husband and Millie moving our whole lives from Los Angeles to Maui full time and manifesting our dream home. And it's just been a big adventure, a big move. But the whole year has not been easy. It has been quite a year. In fact, it's felt like I was on a roller coaster, like kicking off January. with the LA fires, getting evacuated for a week, not knowing if my house was going to survive because I was very, very close to the fires. Then soon after, my grandpa passed, who was really close with. And I say I'm really close with because I still communicate with him. And this is another thing, is when you learn to trust those signs and listen to those signs, you can also communicate with past loved ones and hear the messages that they're giving to you that you are receiving. Anyways, all that aside, so it's been quite a year and there's been so much uncertainty, right? Between all of that happening the first half of the year, and then we put our condo on the market. Luckily, that sold really fast. Miracle, amazing, so grateful. We put our LA house on the market, and unfortunately, because things shifted in, the housing market, and on top of that, after the LA fires and people losing insurance, and it was just not an area that was super high demand anymore, which previously, as of last year, it was. So I was expecting to sell the house really fast, and that just wasn't the case. It took a lot longer than I thought. But throughout this whole time, we were living in the house. There was a lot of uncertainty because we never knew exactly when we were going to find our house in Maui, when we'd actually be moving. We didn't know when we'd sell our house. So it was always feeling very ungrounded. But throughout the whole time, I kept seeing the number 26 over and over and over. And I mean, saying 5 times a day, that's the minimum. That's the minimum that I would see it. I would sometimes see it every single hour of the day. And it was like, that was the only hour that I was ever looking at. It would always be 5:26, 6:26, 7:20. Like, it was craziness. It would be on license plates. It would be, I went to a doctor's visit because I told Josh, I keep seeing 26 like never before. Something's happening. Things are in alignment. And I was like, I think it's either my grandpa sending me a sign because that was his favorite number, and maybe he's just winking at me and saying hi, or it's the universe just saying, Jamie, hold on. There's a lot of uncertainty. I know the house isn't selling as fast as you wanted. I know you're not finding a house in Maui. We went there like 3 different times, couldn't find a place. I felt like it was the universe just giving me this sign several times a day. Keep going, keep trusting, hold on, it's working, just trust, right? And I didn't know exactly what it meant other than I knew that it was my number. And I knew that this was one of the signs the universe sends me when it wants me to know I'm on the right path or I'm in alignment. Yeah, I went to the doctor one day right after telling Josh, geez, I literally am like, I see 26 all the time. And I kept showing him and he was like, that's just crazy. Because I'd be like, look, 26, 26, 26, 26. Then I go to the doctor. They're like, you're in room 26. I'm like, of course I am. Of course I am. So it was crazy, right? So this was definitely the universe communicating with me. Oftentimes it does it in numbers for a lot of people see angel numbers. Josh often sees 1111, but man, it's been wild. And I think a lot of people think, yeah, you were just noticing it, but no, it was all day. And I even showed my in-laws who aren't as much into this kind of stuff. And I told them about that. And then I would show them like every time I look at my clock, look, 8:26 guys. They're like, oh my gosh, Jamie, geez. So it was just like all the time nonstop. Anyways, it was so wild because what ended up happening then is, again, I was just using this as a sign to trust the universe, but we ended up finding our house finally months later after looking and taking several trips to Maui and not finding anything. We finally found our dream home and we did a virtual tour of it and we ended up signing the paperwork for it on, I believe it was September 26th. And I remember writing 26. I'm like, oh my gosh, of course. And the truth is, it's still going. Like, I keep seeing this number over and over. And it's just so fun because for me, I just feel like it's a little wink from the universe. It's not like anything super specific. It's either a wink from the universe or a wink from my grandpa. It's just a little like, hey, it's all working out. It's all going good. So that to me has been a sign. And actually, I really held on to that because there were times over the summer and even into the fall where I was like, are we not supposed to move? It's like, this just like, Are we going against the grain here? Are we trying to like paddle upstream when we're not supposed to? What is going on? Is this not in alignment? But then I just kept seeing that number and I'm like, no, I think it's just a sign to trust. And I knew intuitively that was right. But I don't know if you've ever seen numbers like that or if you have any meaning behind numbers, but that is absolutely one way the universe communicates with us. And that one's been a super fun one. Another fun thing is, and I mean, I could go on and on about the number of times I've seen the number 26 in the past 6 months. But when we got to Maui, we also got a rental car because our car didn't come. It's still in the container on its way over here on its like Hawaiian cruise. So we had to rent a car for a week. And it was so crazy because the rental car number was 726 and Josh's birthday, it's the 7th and mine is the 26th. I'm like, oh my gosh, of course it's 726. Of course it is. He's like, that's weird. So anyways, that was super fun. But another one that's come about more recently, and this is different because this isn't a sign with numbers, but this is more of a vision that I had. And sometimes signs come in visions or they come in intuitive nudges or just an energy or a knowing. That can be a sign from the universe. So basically, let's go back. Beginning of this year, I did a mastermind with Whitney Euland. It was so much fun. Met some incredible women in that mastermind. And one of them was Julia Carlson, who's this incredible financial advisor, owns a financial company. She's a strategist. I mean, she's amazing. And she also coaches female entrepreneurs to go from 7 figures to 8 figures in her private practice. And I just loved her. We connected. We met in Cabo at the mastermind retreat, connected with her. I didn't think anything of it other than I love talking about money. So this is so fun to have a money friend. And like we hit it off. Her energy's awesome. But I never thought, oh, we're going to work together or anything. Anyways, the mastermind completed. Me and Julia, she came on my podcast and that was super fun. But we weren't like in touch a bunch, maybe here or there on Instagram. But I was meditating one day a couple months ago and I got this strong intuitive nudge and vision, do a mastermind with Julia. Like, do a mastermind. That'd be so awesome. And I was like, do a money mastermind with Julia. And it was one of those visions where I was like, okay. And then I just continued meditating and I'm like, yeah, maybe. Okay. Whatever. And then went on with my day. Didn't think about it again. A couple days later, I'm meditating. Same vision came, do a mastermind with Julia. Do a mastermind with Julia. And this time it was like, do a becoming a millionaire mastermind. Like the name dropped in. Do a becoming a millionaire mastermind with Julia. She can cover the strategy. You can cover the inner work and the coaching and the mindset and the becoming part, the part of you that needs to become it. And she'll do that too. But just really, we have such a beautiful balance of talents and skills. And this idea just dropped in. And of course, like my ego mind was like, no, but she wouldn't do that. She's releasing a book. I know she's launching that. She's got this massive company. She's already got, like, why would she want to do that with me? So I just let it go. I thought, okay, maybe we'll think about it. Maybe I'll write her later. Maybe I'll check in and see if she'd be interested. But I didn't do it. Went on with my life. Then again, in meditation, it came on even stronger. It wouldn't stop nudging me. And I always know, like, third time something really nudges you, you better listen. I've learned from experience. So third time's the charm. It came in again. It was strong. And I'm like, okay. Maybe there's just a part of me that's afraid of being rejected. Maybe I don't believe she's going to do it, but what does it hurt to ask? And of course, I always teach my clients in the movement to take courageous action. That's a huge part of the manifestation journey. And this vision had come about so clearly for me between the name, the idea of it, the pricing, like everything dropped in so clearly. So all I had to do was reach out and see if she'd be a match to it, see if she'd be interested. So I finally took courageous action. I thought, I'm literally taking courageous action. And I emailed her. She was totally on board. Totally on board. I was so excited because I'm like, oh my God, this vision feels so alive and it feels so right. And it was so wild because we got on the phone or on a Zoom call and we were talking back and forth. I didn't tell her the full vision other than like the general idea of it because I wanted to get her feedback and see what might be interesting to her. we were vibing exactly the same, like the same price that I had in mind, she mentioned the same exact like person it's for, she talked, right? We were so in alignment with that vision. It's really special. And sometimes the universe will speak to you in visions or in nudges or in instincts. Sometimes it's when you're meditating, you'll get a vision. Sometimes it's even in a dream. I don't often get them, but some of my clients and like people that I know have downloads in their dreams, or they'll see something in their dream. I've never personally had that, but sometimes for me, it's like in meditation or whenever I'm just like in the shower, not thinking. That's when these ideas from the universe can drop in. It's oftentimes when we slow down enough to hear it, right? When we can hear the whispers, those soft, subtle nudges, because they're not always loud. Although this one was getting louder and louder each time. It was very soft initially, and then it kept getting louder. But yeah, if you can take time, not if you can, let me reframe that, my friend. It is imperative that you take time out to just be. And I'm not even talking about this for just benefiting business. It's going to benefit your whole life. If you start a meditation practice, if you start slowing down and get yourself in nature once a day, you need to start slowing down, because this is where messages from the universe and divine guidance can actually come in. When you are rushing and hustling and grinding and trying to force things to happen, and you're always in your strategic brain, you're not going to be open enough to receive these. And these messages are where the true quantum leaps will happen, in the expansion and the alignment, and you actually coming into alignment with your soul's calling. So it's not just, I hope you have the time, or if you have time. It's, you have to make the time. It's imperative. If you want to have success beyond your wildest dreams, if you want to have expansion beyond your wildest dreams, if you want to live an amazing, potent, rich life, like that is where true wealth is created. It's from slowing down and starting to hear your own intuition, starting to hear signs and messages from the universe, because you will be guided, especially when you believe you will be guided. And when you start taking the messages seriously and take action on them, you know? And again, you've probably had times in your life where you didn't listen. You didn't. You're like, there were many signs leading to that. There were some red flags and I didn't listen and it didn't work out so well. So slow down. Give yourself more space, more time. You cannot be grinding and expanding. It just doesn't work. You can grind and expand, but not in the way that you want to. You can grow and grind, but you're not going to expand and grind. Two different things, right? Expansion happens on a soul level. Growth can happen from grinding. That's fine. But like, what is the purpose of growing if you're just going to be exhausted and you're not doing it in a way that's aligned? So that's a total side note. But I want to talk about how we can start noticing these messages. So number one, you got to slow down enough to hear it, which means you got to take time for yourself. You have to take time to be in presence, right? And I don't know what that looks like for you. It's going to be different for everyone, but I will say it's important, and it's important to figure out what that is for you. And you might have to test different things, right? Test meditating, test taking an Epsom salt bath every night, test taking an extra shower in the evening, test out throwing on some kind of binaural beats meditation before you go to bed. Test out waking up and reading for the first 30 minutes of your day. Test out a midday walk. I'm not saying all of these. I'm saying one of them is going to make a huge difference. So you just got to start slowing down, and also believe that you are worthy of receiving messages, and that you do receive messages, because they're not going to always come so loud and clear to the point where it's like, this is a message from the universe, right? It's more of like going to be just subtle things. And so when you know that you're in communication and that you receive these, as we all do, you just take them more seriously. So that's kind of how I look at it, right? So believe that you are worthy of receiving signs because you are, because we all receive signs. All right. And then I want to talk about what are different signs, because not everyone has the same ones. Like I said, some people I know get signs in their dreams. I don't happen to get that. Some people hear whispers behind their ear. Like they actually hear, they say it's God talk to me. Like it sounded like there's a voice that I know is God talking to me. I don't get that, but that's someone else receiving a sign from the universe. A lot of people see animals and have spirit animals come to them, or, certain things. And that does happen for me. In fact, if you watch my Insta stories the past couple weeks, whenever I was moving, all these animals were coming about. So it was so weird. The night we were packing our house and moving out, this coyote, which I lived in Los Angeles. Yes, there are coyotes, but this coyote came up our driveway and was sitting there watching us unpack. Like we were outside, right? It didn't run away or anything. It was watching us move boxes from the inside of the house outside. And I look over, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's a coyote staring at us, Josh. Like it's right there. He's like, oh my gosh. I actually got out my camera and I was like filming it. I put it on stories because I was like, oh my gosh. But I kind of took that as a sign. It's like, that's so interesting. And I didn't even look up what was the meaning of it or anything. But I oftentimes just feel like animals come to say hi, or their little spirit or something that's just like, hey there. Little nudge, you're on the right track. I also randomly saw like an owl when I was on a walk one day right before I was moving. This huge, it looked like a barn owl, was just sitting there staring at me on my neighbor's house, which is not something that I see often, right? I would hear them from time to time, but it wasn't common. And then there was another day that this was maybe a week and a half before we were moving, where there was a swarm of bats going nuts and flowing all over. We lived in the hills, so we were like walking in our neighborhood on the top of a hill, and they were swarming up and down and around, creating this beautiful formations. Like, what is happening? I was like filming that too because I couldn't believe it. I'm like, oh, bats? Like, I had seen bats in my neighborhood, but I have never seen something like that. And it was so weird that those 3 different occurrences happened like on the same week that I was moving out. So animals will often come to you, and a lot of people like to look up, like, what's the meaning of this animal? And oftentimes there are meanings. If you say, like, what's the meaning of this spirit animal, you can get them, and that's a great way to receive a message. But I also just like to think of them as they're little messengers just coming to say hi, like from the spirit world, and they're a soul that's just being with me, right? So sometimes I don't even know exactly what the sign is, other than there's the sign from the universe. It's a nudge, it's an omen, right? And in fact, speaking of omens, if you want to read a great book on the language of the universe, highly recommend The Alchemist. Amazing. Who is that book by? I'm going to look it up. I will also put it in the show notes, but that book I have read so many times, and it really talks about exactly what we're talking about today. Oh yeah, it's by Paulo Coelho. Yeah, I'll put it in the show notes. It's such a good book, and it talks about the language of the universe and omens and how we receive them. And animals can absolutely be an omen. Another one is synchronicities. So the number, for example, 26 that kept coming to me and it keeps coming to me, that's a synchronicity. It's something that just keeps showing up over and over and over. And so maybe you will see that with numbers. It could be repeating numbers. It could be repeating song lyrics. It could be overheard conversations where you keep hearing this same person mentioned, or the same book mentioned, or the same TV show. And you're like, okay, I've heard this too many times to not listen to it. Let me go figure out what this is. I'm going to dive into it. Maybe I need to get this book, right? Sometimes that is a message from the universe. Just people kind of mentioning the same idea over and over. That would be a synchronicity. And oftentimes that is a message from the universe. So a lot of times if I hear something more than 3 times in a row, I'm like, I gotta listen to this. Not in a way of I have to, but more out of like curiosity. Like, why does this keep coming to me? Let me just check it out. Another way that the universe speaks to us is through intuitive nudges. And I have these a lot, right? This is like gut instincts. It's gut knowing. It's just that, it's the knowing sometimes like, I'm not supposed to do this. Like, even though it makes logical sense, I'm not supposed to do this. I've had that with like people that I've thought about working with where I'm like, it just doesn't feel right. It's not a hell yes in my body. I don't know why it doesn't make logical sense, but I'm not supposed to do this, right? And sometimes the nudges, I am supposed to do this and it doesn't make logical sense and it's scary. And oh my God, how am I going to figure this out? But I know I'm supposed to do this. So those nudges, those are signs from the universe. A lot of times it speaks to us through our bodies. And actually in human design, it talks about that is a way for certain design types or human design types to hear their intuition is through gut instincts. I happen to be that person. I am a generator and I have a sacral authority is what it's called. I am not a human design expert, but I've learned enough about it. And with that sacral authority, I do get gut instincts. I get gut sacral nudges, and I do believe those are a sign from the universe is when our body knows. It's like maybe our mind says one thing is right, but our body is like, no. Or our body's like, yeah, you're meant to do this. I know it's scary. Let's go. That's a sign for sure. Another one that I have personally received, and, I believe you have too, is, just like people in our lives or mentors or finding that right podcast at the right time or that perfect book that you needed. Like it was exactly what you needed. Or maybe it's that perfect podcast episode that's answering the question you've been asking. And you're like, what in the world? That's a sign from the universe. That is the universe communicating with you. And when you set an intention, oftentimes the answer will come, but through different ways. It might be through a mentor. It might be through, I don't know, you might see a sign. You might see a physical sign that is giving you the answer to your question. And all you have to do is set the intention of what you want and ask to receive guidance and know that it's there. Know that the guidance is there. Don't be needy with it. Don't be like searching for it, but it's like just open up to receiving the guidance. Another one is songs, right? A lot of people hear the perfect song at the perfect time. It might be that song that you hear that just helps you release all the emotions, or maybe it's a song that is speaking directly to you. Or maybe it's a melody that your heart and soul just needs. This is a way that the universe talks to us. And I have to share a personal story that is absolutely craziness. It's 100% a sign from the universe. It's actually a sign from my grandpa. So this is wild. My grandpa, as I shared, passed back in April. And he was Santa Claus, like literally he was Santa Claus. He went to Santa school in Michigan and learned how to be Santa Claus. And he had been doing it for 40 years in his town. The entire town of Cadillac, Michigan knew him as Santa because he was the town Santa. He went to everyone's house. Like he would actually show up, give out presents at people's houses. He used to be the Santa right in town that kids would go and sit on his lap. And he was just so jolly. He lived this identity around Christmas time. He had so many Santa suits. He had a Saint Nick suit. I mean, I'm talking my grandpa went deep into being Santa. So he was a devout Catholic. So every single year during Mass, he would go to midnight Mass and he would dress as Santa and he would bring up the baby Jesus dressed as Santa to really bring the energy of Christmas and the energy of Santa into that. And it was a beautiful thing. And for him also St. Nicholas, and he had a St. Nicholas costume, and it was just, he lived and breathed it. And everyone who knew him as Santa. He would even wear Santa hats in the middle of July. He was so funny. He was such a character. But this is wild. So the day after he passed, my mom was up in Michigan and she was with him when he passed, and she had to drive back to St. Louis, Missouri, where my brother was getting married like 3 days later, right after he had passed. And, so she was driving from Michigan to St. Louis. It's a long drive. I think it's like an 8 or 9 hour drive. She was all sad, of course, because my grandpa had just passed away, and she was crying in the car and the radio had stopped, and she thought thought, oh, I'm just in like a zone where the radio's not working, I guess. I don't know. That's weird. Like it was a rental car. So she's like, huh, okay, that's weird. And it like went black. And all of a sudden, this is in April, Christmas music starts coming on vividly and loud and like crystal clear in the middle of April. And the first song that comes on is Santa Claus is Coming to Town. Then it was Away in a Manger. Then it was, I don't remember, it was just one after the other for half an hour straight. Christmas music is playing, but the screen is black. The screen is black. My mom literally took a video because she's like, I don't think anyone would believe me. And I also wanted to make sure I wasn't being delusional. The screen went black. Like it wasn't working. There was nothing connected. It was a rental car. So she didn't even have her phone connected in or anything like that where that could be. It was completely black and there was just Christmas music going through the speakers. So if that wasn't a sign from my grandpa, she knew. She just started bawling and she has videos of it and it was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. So, you know, we knew that was my grandpa, no doubt about it. But these are ways which when we open up to it, we can receive messages from those who have passed, from our angels, from our guides, from the universe, whatever it is that you believe in. You can start looking for signs. Also, sometimes it is up to you to interpret what those signs mean and you get to choose. And I think that's a beautiful thing too. Like the number 26, I just know it's a family number and my intuitive instinct is it means that I'm in alignment. It means that I just got to keep trusting. So anytime I see that number, that's what I think. It's not like I knew 100% that's what that sign meant. It's just what I gave to it. And it really aligns for me. So that's the other thing with it is sometimes you have to give it its meaning or you have to intuitively feel into what the meaning is. But one last sign that I wanted to share about on this episode is one that isn't maybe as thought of. And that is obstacles and redirections, right? When things fall through or they feel blocked or it's just not working, oftentimes that is a sign that there is a clearer, cleaner path unfolding, something that's even better, something even more aligned, right? So you don't want to fight your way through those things because oftentimes it's a sign that something even better is around the corner, right? And so I love thinking of that as a sign. And the way that you know that's a sign that you could redirect is because you're going to know it. You're going to know it deep in your being. So not every obstacle is a sign to go shift and do something else because not everything in the world is supposed to be easy, right? Just like with this move to Hawaii, there were a lot of obstacles that I hit up against, right? And I sat in a lot of uncertainty. And the part of me was like, is this a redirect? Is this obstacle here because there's a easier path for me, something else? But I checked in with my intuitive knowing and I knew that I was supposed to keep going. And I kept seeing that number 26 and I just knew I was supposed to keep going. So for me, that wasn't a redirect, but you'll know it's a redirect if you check in with yourself because there's been other things that just haven't worked. And I just knew it's time to shift gears. It's time to try something new. It's just not right. It is a redirect. So again, check in with your being, check in with your body. That's how you know. And that's another way you communicate with the universe is your body. Yeah. So anyways, these are super fun. I hope you will start looking for signs. And again, all you have to start doing is setting the intention to start becoming aware of the signs and start learning the language of the universe and how it speaks to you. And if you set that intention, you will start learning it. And if you want to read a book on this, again, The Alchemist is an amazing book because that's going to give you a lot of inspiration and show you how it unfolds in a story. So anywho, love this topic. Hope you've enjoyed this episode. So excited for you to start looking for the signs and tuning into them and slowing down enough to hear the whispers that are coming in for your expansion. All right, my friends, happy manifesting and aloha.